Hello, my name is Paul, and I am the librarian at Avalon Library, part of LA County Library. LA County Library is currently closed to the public, but you can still visit us online to check out thousands of ebooks through Overdrive, movies through Canopy, and online classes through lynda.com. You can sign up for a digital library card to use online services at our website, lacountylibrary.org. And now it's time for Paul's grown up public domain story time. Because I thought it's not just kids who need a virtual story time, grown ups could use some too. But first, some jokes. All of the material I'm doing today is in public domain, which means it's free for anybody to utilize and perform. This is from a joke book written in 1924. And because, well, I'm kind of here alone, I have to do everything myself. So I brought my friend, a puppet. Hello. Hello. How are you? I'm just good, thanks. What did the duck say when she bought lipstick? What did the duck say when she bought lipstick? She said, "Put it on my bill." Eh, that's a terrible joke. All right, how about this one? How many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? He's nuts. How many tickles? 10 tickles. Very good. 10 tickles. Tentacles, like that. Got it? Why do seagulls fly over the sea? Because if they flew over the bay, they'd be bagels. All right, maybe that's enough jokes. Let's try something else. I have here a poem. This is a poem from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. It's on most library shelves, and it's also available on Project Gutenberg at gutenberg.org. And I'm going to read you the poem, You Are Old, Father William. You are old, Father William, the young man said, and your hair has become very white, and yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right? In my youth, Father William replied to his son, I feared it would injure the brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why, I do it again and again. You are old, said the youth, as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turn a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason for that? In my youth, said the sage, as he shook his grey locks, I kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling a box, allow me to sell you a couple. You are old, said the youth, and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it? In my youth, said his father, I took to the law, and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life. You are old, said the youth. One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever, yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever? I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough, said his father. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. Thank you. Very nice. That's from Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Beautiful book. I'm now going to read you a brief segment from Charles Dickens' Oliver. Also on Project Gutenberg, gutenberg.org, available everywhere, most schools, most libraries. I'm going to read you the scene where young orphan Oliver is at his orphanage and is very hungry. The room in which the boys were fed was a large stone hall with a copper pot at one end, out of which the master, dressed in his apron for the purpose, and assisted by one or two women, ladled the gruel at meal times. Of this festive composition each boy had one bowl, and no more, except on occasions of public rejoicing, when he had 2 ounces and a quarter of bread besides. The bowls never wanted washing. The boys polished them with their spoons until they shone again. And when they had performed this operation, which they never took very long at, the spoons being nearly as large as the bowls, they would sit staring at the copper pot with such eager eyes as if they could have devoured the very bricks of which it was composed, employing themselves meanwhile in sucking their fingers most assiduously with the view of catching up any stray splashes of gruel that might have been cast thereon. Boys have generally excellent appetites. Oliver Twist and his companions suffered the tortures of slow starvation for 3 months. At last they got so voracious and wild with hunger that one boy, who was tall for his age, and hadn't been used to that sort of thing, for his father had kept a cook-shop, hinted darkly to his companions that unless he had another basin of gruel per diem, he was afraid that some night he might happen to eat the boy who slept next to him, who happened to be a weakly youth of tender age. He had a wild, hungry eye, and they implicitly believed him. A council was held. Lots were cast who should walk up to the master after supper that evening and ask for more. The lot fell to Oliver Twist. The evening arrived. The boys took their places. The master, in his cook's uniform, stationed himself at the copper pot. His pauper assistants ranged themselves behind him. The gruel was served out, and a long grace was said over the short commons. The gruel disappeared. The boys whispered each other and winked at Oliver, while his next neighbors nudged him. Child as he was desperate with hunger and reckless with misery. He rose from the table, and advancing to his master, basin and spoon in hand, he said, somewhat alarmed at his own temerity, "Please, sir, I want some more." The master was a fat, healthy man, but he turned very pale. He gazed in stupefied astonishment on the small rebel for some seconds, and then clung for support to the copper bowl. The assistants were paralyzed with wonder, the boys with fear. "What?" said the master at length, in a faint voice. "Please, sir," said Oliver, "I want some more." The master aimed a blow at Oliver's head with the ladle, pinioned him in his arm, and shrieked aloud for the beadle. The board were sitting in solemn conclave when Mr. Bumble rushed into the room in great excitement, and addressing the gentleman in the high chair said, "Mr. Limbkins, I beg your pardon, sir. Oliver Twist has asked for more." There was a general start. Horror was depicted on every countenance. "For more?" said Mr. Limbkins. "Compose yourself, Bumble, and answer me distinctly. Do I understand that he asked for more after he had eaten the supper allotted by the dietary?" "He did, sir," said Bumble. "That boy will be hung," said the gentleman in the white waistcoat. "I know that boy will be hung." Nobody controverted the prophetic gentleman's opinion. An animated discussion took place. Oliver was ordered into instant confinement, and a bill the next morning pasted on the outside of the gate, offering a reward of £5 to anybody who would take Oliver Twist off the hands of the parish. In other words, £5 and Oliver Twist were offered to any man or woman who wanted an apprentice to any trade, business, or calling. "I never was more convinced of anything in my life," said the gentleman in the white waistcoat, as he knocked at the gate and read the bill next morning. "I never was more convinced of anything in my life than I am that that boy will come to be hung. As I propose to show in the sequel, whether the white waistcoated gentleman was right or not, I should perhaps mar the interest of this narrative, supposing it to possess any at all, if I ventured to hint just yet whether the life of Oliver Twist had this violent termination or no. Thank you very much for joining me on this adult story time. If this is something you like, please let me know in the comments and I'll do another one. In other words, this is something I'd like to do for you. Here we are, and I hope you enjoy your day. Thank you.